so I think we'll align with our names.
Okay.
Just for clarity, that's Travis and I'm Andy. Andy Salter, I'm Managing Director of a publisher in the UK. We publish a lot of trade titles. But more importantly, this is Travis Katz, and he's the CEO and President of BrightDrop. And I think the question that we all want to know, given we've had some fairly esteemed speakers from Daimler and Schmitz on the stage before us, who is BrightDrop and what are you doing in Hanover?
Well, first of all, thank you all for coming and listening to me speak. So BrightDrop is a new business backed by General Motors that is focused on reimagining last mile delivery for an all-electric future. So we have a suite of products, electric delivery vans, electrically propelled containers that we call e-carts, and a software suite that really is optimized around how do you make the last mile both greener, but also more efficient. And a lot of people say, well, what are you talking about with last mile delivery? Not everyone knows what that term is. So the reason when you think about last mile delivery, this is really your e-commerce deliveries. So think about your Amazon packages or your groceries being delivered, sort of the last mile from the warehouse to your home. And as most people know, this is a huge market. $4 trillion a year. It's been growing 27% year on year. And it's also a huge emitter of carbon. And so our products are really dissolved to really help companies keep pace with that explosive growth while eliminating the carbon emissions.
Just rewind a little bit. So the backdrop is you're funded by GM. So you're like a startup within the GM ecosystem. Just give us a little bit of info.
Yeah, that's right. So we are backed by General Motors, but we're set up to run as a startup. So we're a separate company from General Motors. General Motors is our primary backer. And it's a unique setup that gives us a couple advantages. It really lets us move with the speed and focus of a startup while leveraging the scale that General Motors brings. So the ability to design vehicles, produce them at scale, and rapidly get up the scaling chain, which is one of the things that a lot of new startups struggle with.
Right. And we know about GM's vehicle background, but I think you're based in Silicon Valley. You're a tech company. So you're an integrator, or are you originating software and vehicles? Can you give us a little bit?
Yes, we're building it all. So my background, I'm not an automotive person by background. So I am a software entrepreneur. I've been building and starting software companies for about 20 years. Most recently, I started a company called Trip.com that I sold back in 2017. And we've built an office in Silicon Valley. We're hiring tech talent from places like Apple and from Google, from NEO, from Tesla and other companies like that. And we're really building a technology-first company. So everything that we build, so we are building electric vehicles, so delivery vans, and e-carts, but all of these are connected devices. So everything that we're building is a smart device. It's streaming data back to the cloud. And when you think about the last mile of logistics, it really is an optimization problem. So how do we most efficiently get packages from point A to point B with the least amount of cost, the least amount of carbon emissions? So we're building a connected suite of products that really brings that whole ecosystem together.
Okay, which fits with the whole IAA transportation theme here. The vehicle, just scratch a little bit at the vehicles. It's like commercials. I think you've got 2 models currently, and I think there's one here for demonstration at the fair.
Yeah, so we've released 2 electric vehicles to date. They're called the Zevo 600 and the Zevo 400. So the 600 is a bigger vehicle, so think about 17 cubic meters of cargo space. The 400 is a little bit shorter. It's a little bit more the standard size you would see in Europe, so about 11.5 cubic meters of cargo space. These are purpose-built vehicles for delivery, electric vehicles for delivery. So we're not converting an ICE platform, but we built these from the ground up. Our designers spent hundreds of hours in the field with delivery drivers, watching how do they move, how do they stage packages, and designing vehicles that will really help maximize efficiency. So the form factor is, these are step vans. So it's a much more common form factor in the US than it is in Europe. But It has a wide, door, a low step-in height to make it easier for couriers getting in and out, a big wide bulkhead door that allows you to go from the driving compartment, stand up straight in there, and then walk straight into the back to get packages out. So when you talk to delivery companies, they're really trying to figure out, how do I optimize this flow? And they're looking at, how can I shave off seconds from each delivery to really gain efficiencies? So the vehicle is really purpose-built around that. It's leveraging GM's Ultium battery platform, which allows us to get scale and will allow us to drive costs down very quickly. But also lets us do things like drop the floor height, so you don't need room for an axle, obviously, in a purpose-built EV.
And you've got the Zevo 400s here?
Yes, the 400 is here if you want to see it. We're over in Hall 13, so you can go and see it. It's a beautiful vehicle. It's quite tall, you'll see, so you can fit a lot of packages in there.
Now, you mentioned that your main activity at the moment is in the US. I noticed you swerved the first part of my question about why you're in Hanover. Of course, we love to see another vehicle enter the fray, but is there a European plan?
So we don't have anything that we're announcing here today, but obviously Europe is a really interesting market. So e-commerce is huge in Europe and is growing very rapidly, and there's also a lot of pressure, and I think even more since the conflict in Ukraine started, around electrifying fleets. We're living in a really exciting moment right now. I think all of us recognize this, that we're in the beginning of a transformation in how goods move around. And it's really exciting, especially now, because we're at a point where the cost curves have crossed. And not only is an electric vehicle better for the environment, less carbon emissions, but it's actually cheaper to drive. So we estimate with our Zevo vehicles, the average customer will save about 7,000 to 8,000 euros per vehicle per year when they switch from a traditional step van to an electric vehicle. Yeah. That's a big change. So it allows companies to not only feel like they're doing the right thing and help meet the broader carbon goals that we have as a society, but to really do it in a way that's going to save them money. So it makes a lot of economic sense. So
no plans at the moment for Europe, but clearly it's an attractive market.
We're out here, so a lot of the customers we're talking to, so we have more than 25,000 reservations for our van today with big global customers, think companies like Walmart and FedEx. A lot of the customers we're talking to are global customers. They have a global footprint. They're looking for global partners. And we're here to really learn. We're here to talk to customers and listen and see what this market needs, and hopefully we'll have something more we can share.
Very good. We'll watch this space. You mentioned there a little bit about the current performance of the business in the States. I saw that you'd announced 150 vehicles with FedEx, I think, earlier in the summer. So how many vehicles have you got in operation at the moment? Could you give us a little flavor of where they're operating and just some of your experiences?
Yeah, so this business has been, we just announced this business in January of 2021 to set the context. We're a very new business, but we are moving at an incredibly rapid pace. So we delivered our first commercial vehicles to FedEx in December of 2021, just 12 months after announcing the business. This was the fastest vehicle to market in GM's history. And since then, we've delivered 150 vehicles. They're all operating, they're in FedEx's fleet, operating in the Los Angeles area. They are being actively used to deliver, these aren't demo vehicles, they're being used to deliver packages. They did about 95,000 miles in the last 3 months alone. So they're really putting some mileage to date, but those were vehicles that came off our low volume production line. In parallel, we've been building out our factory where we're going to be producing the Zevos at scale. That is on target to open up at the end of this year. And we will start moving there from low volume to high volume and rapid.
Where's the factory?
It's in Ingersoll, Ontario, in Canada.
Right, okay, right. And then how have these vehicles been, can you give us any sense of how they've been performing? I know these are the...
Yes, they're amazing. I think anyone who's gone from driving a diesel vehicle to an electric vehicle will know the experience. For delivery drivers, I think it's even more extreme. So these are really comfortable vehicles. So we've designed them around the comfort of the driver. So one of the challenges a lot of delivery companies have today are holding on to workers. We're having this labor shortage all around the world. These vehicles are much better for workers. They're more comfortable. They've got advanced safety features, so they're much safer on the road. They're quiet, so instead of hearing the loud rattling of a diesel engine, these things move silently, so it's nice for the driver, it's nice for our neighborhoods as these trucks are moving through. There's no diesel fumes to be breathing. So the drivers absolutely love them. When our teams go out to some of these FedEx depots, the drivers run up and give them hugs. They're that happy with their vehicles. This really is a game changer, and I don't want to sound overly bombastic, but it's a completely different experience. They're really superior across any dimension you look at.
Right.
And so people love them. I think everyone's going to love these vehicles.
When we caught up last week, I needed to get to know you a little bit. You talked about Curbageddon, which I think is a new entrant into the lexicon of last mile logistics. I think we probably all know what it means, but what's the context for you at BrightDrop, and how do you alleviate this? This is back to that topic of optimization that you mentioned previously.
Yeah, so like I mentioned in the beginning, we're not just building electric vehicles, although everyone gets really excited about the electric vehicles, but we're building a holistic suite of products. And this idea of Curbageddon, one of the problems that we're having as e-commerce has continued to grow and continued to grow, delivery companies have been throwing more and more trucks at the problem. And the infrastructure in cities is fixed. So at some point, if you put more and more trucks into the cities, you start to create traffic jams and traffic congestion. A lot of us have seen this where trucks are blocking a lane of traffic and you have to drive around that. And you often see, trucks stopping on the side of the road and they're sorting packages on the side of the road or blocking a lane of traffic, which we sort of refer to as Curbageddon. It's a big mess for cities. It's making people late to work or late to pick up their kids from school or late to the airport. And cities are noticing and they're really looking for change. What we've built, we introduced a product called the Trace e-cart. So it's about this big. It's a locker on wheels, essentially, with electric propulsion. You can put almost 100 kilograms of packages in there. And what it enables drivers to do is operate more efficiently. So you can either drop these off to a foot courier or to a bicycle courier and load it onto an e-bike. You can use a micro hub where you can drop these off and meet couriers there. We piloted this with FedEx in Toronto and New York last year, and they were able to deliver 25% more packages per day using the Trace e-cart than without it, and they were able to reduce.
What were they using previously? What was the?
They were just using a hand cart,
okay.
Like a dolly, and so often with those you have to do 5 trips back and forth to do a single high-rise building. With the Trace e-cart, you could drop it off and do an entire building in one go. So it's much more efficient. And they were also able to reduce their curbside dwell time by almost 50%. So it really is a game changer in how you think about logistics and is going to allow us to keep enjoying what we like about e-commerce, which is the convenience of having things brought to our door without all the negative consequences.
And we spoke about so this leads us nicely into this topic of containerization of parcel or last mile deliveries, and that's where the e-cart is really, this is what you're talking about?
Yeah, so the way we think about the Trace e-cart is sort of the first step in the containerization of the last mile. So I think all of us are familiar with the story of how the shipping container revolutionized global freight. And so when they introduced the shipping container, these were multimodal. You could take it off a ship, put it onto a train or onto a truck, and move these things around. The e-cart does the same thing. So these are, it allows you to break up a route into smaller subunits. You can take those on trucks, you can take them on e-bikes, you can take them by foot, you can install them in a micro hub. So it allows you to much more efficiently move packages with less touches. Every time a person touches a package, it introduces chances for errors. It allows you to track where things are better. So these are smart containers again, so you can see exactly the location of where things are and where are my packages along the journey. So it really helps drive efficiencies. And to make that come to life, of course, is a software play. And so a lot of what we're doing is building the software around these things to help allow companies to track, to plan, and to organize their routes to take advantage of the efficiencies that these e-carts unlock.
Right. And so in terms of the development profile and your investment plans, where do you go from here? The it seems like the holy grail is around connected autonomous vehicles. Is this the direction of travel for BrightDrop, or what? Give us a flavor of strategic ambition.
I think what's great about our company and our position, having General Motors as a backer, is that we're going to be with our customers on the entire journey from the electrification of fleets, which is where we're at now, to eventually those fleets becoming autonomous in the future. And I think General Motors is the owner of a company called Cruise, which is right now seen as the leader in autonomous driving. They are doing commercial driverless taxi rides in San Francisco. You can pay and have a Cruise taxi pick you up with no driver inside and drive you to your destination. So you can imagine how those pieces could come together over time. Right now, we're really focusing on how do we scale the electrification, because that's customers' first and foremost needs. They really need to reduce their carbon footprint, and they need to reduce their costs. And so we're working on that phase. But we see a journey where this is going to, certain segments will become autonomous sooner. I think my chief technology officer built autonomous sidewalk robots for a company called Serve Robotics that spun out of Uber recently. My chief product officer led software at Zoox, which is the autonomous driving company that was bought by Amazon and then for Neo. So we're really thinking about how does this future look, and we're bringing in technologists to help us plan not just for the delivery system of today, but what is the delivery system going to look like in 5 years and 10 years, and how do we help customers get from where they are today, which is a very manual system, to one that's much more automated.
Very good. Well, I see our old enemy has caught up with us, time, so I'm being told that we need to wrap it up now, Travis. But thank you very much for your time here today. It's been really fascinating to hear from a sort of manufacturer-backed startup and how you're going to really drive this forward with that agility. I think it's going to be one to really watch this space. So hopefully we'll come along and see the vehicle in operation on the fair.
Yeah, thank you, Andy, and thanks everyone. And if you want to come see us, we're in Hall 13.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks.
Well, thanks very much to both of you. And Andy, I'm so sorry for forgetting to introduce you properly at the beginning, but you did it yourself like the star you are. Guys, we're going to take a very short 10-minute break. When we come back at 2 o'clock, we will have a panel on freight forwarder between near future challenges and long-term strategies. That panel will be in German. I will see you in 10 minutes.